off.
Hey, Logan, are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
3, 2, 1.
I hereby call the Candido County Board of Commissioners in session. I'd like to ask you all, please stand as we say the pledge to the United States flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There we go. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all here and those who may be listening or watching on YouTube later on. Thank you for your interest in Candido County government. We have a couple housekeeping things first, and that would be the bills. And commissioners, you all received copies of the bills and the warrants in our Dropbox and had a chance to look them over.
I will move that we pay the bills.
Thank you. A motion by Commissioner Nissen. Do I have a second? And a second by Commissioner Anderson. Any further questions? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. We also received copies of the minutes in our Dropbox, and I believe an email as well. Any corrections or additions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
A motion by Commissioner Gardner and a second by Commissioner Emdek. And I'm going to call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. And now I would like to have the Chief Deputy Julie Weifels, and I believe you have a contract agreement for us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, actually, I have two grant agreements from the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. This is an annual grant. One of them is which allows deputies to work overtime patrolling the waterways in the county. It's the same amount that we have received for the prior years, $5,125 through the DNR. The second grant that we have this year is actually an equipment grant. We're having some issues with the boat lift up on Green Lake, and we look to get it replaced. And so we were able to get a grant funding through the DNR to replace that boat lift up on Green Lake. And that grant is for $13,295. So I just need I don't know, or something that you guys will
Sure.
accept the grant.
I'm thinking we might have to have two different motions
Yes.
on this, but first off, for the first one, would you just briefly repeat what that was? We'll take one at a time.
Yep, the first one is for an overtime patrol grant for the amount of $5,125 from the Minnesota Department of.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So move.
A motion by Commissioner Gardner to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second
A
that.
second by Commissioner Anderson. Any questions or comments? I hear none. I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Okay.
Thank you. And the second grant is the grant for the equipment for the boat lift up at Green Lake. It's for the amount of $13,295 from the Minnesota DNR as well.
Okay.
So move, Mr.
A
Chair.
motion by Commissioner Emdek to
I will
approve,
second it.
and a second by Commissioner Nissen. Any further questions or comments? I hear none. I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Well, thank you.
Thank you. And would you sign off on these?
Yes, I can do this real quick. You bet. Thank you.
Right underneath the sheriff's.
All right.
Do we, the boat lift is for the patrol boat?
Yes, on
And-
Green Lake.
Okay, and is that permanently stored there, or do you have another boat to go to the other lakes?
We have three different boats, so
Okay.
we have one that we leave on Green Lake permanently for the summer. Thank you.
And thank you for the grants. And we,
So yeah, there is one boat always on Green Lake, but then we have other boats if we have calls in different parts of the county, so.
All right, thanks.
we always love grants, and as long as there's no tails connected with them. Thank you.
Thank you guys very
Have a
much.
good day. Appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to call on Mr. Odens, Public Works Director, and you have a resolution for us, 2021-26.
Correct. I've got a resolution and that authorizes you to sign a grant agreement. So just as a little background, we let the bids for the Regal Bridge, is what we like to refer to it as. It's County Road 2 right up by Regal. It's a badly needed replacement of a bridge that Robert Schroeder was low on, even though it was high bids, but there's a tight market right now. But the good news is that, what I'm going to be asking you for is to authorize the chair and the auditor to sign a resolution, which then authorizes you to sign the grant agreement. So it's state, so with a state grant, they want your grant agreement signed by resolution. So you sign the resolution that everybody votes on, and then you also sign the grant agreement. They don't just have you sign the grant agreement. So anyway, that's a little bit more than maybe what you need to know. But the good news is that we were successful, and the reason we're signing a grant agreement is we were successful in getting another state bonding grant to backfill the gap that we had in this bridge. So we have three funding sources. We have the federal bridge off systems money. The second one is the grant agreement that I've got before you today. Then the third one is our county dollars that we're putting into it. So it gets a little confusing because I will have one more amendment next week on the same subject once this gets sent in. But with that, the good news is it's $1 million bridge, and the county's only putting in $36,000. So that's the moral of the story. So,
Commissioner Ennis.
Mr. Chair, I would move on resolution 2021-26.
And is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Anderson. Any further questions or discussion?
A question.
Please proceed.
36,000, Mr. Odens, give or take, is what we're going to be spending. What did we think we were going to be spending without that auto grant?
300,000.
300.
Oh,
That was in our budget, road and bridge budget?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So what
You can repave
mile of road?
Gulfview Road now.
There. I use these as reminders of when you allow the systems to work, we carry a little reserves so we can let the project, once the project's let, we go after all the excess dollars that nobody else has used. And in this case, it backfilled. We're only paying 4% of $1 million bridge. I mean, but had we not done that,
Prepared, yep.
we would still be sitting with an old bridge for this year and next, and gone after money next year, which might not be there. So this was literally within hours of getting this bridge bonding because somebody didn't use it, and the bridge bonding closes down in June. So it worked out good. So we feel good. So
Well-
it's a little bit more paperwork, but we'll get through it.
well, thank you, and that's where your skills are, and greatly appreciate
But
it.
I appreciate the support from the county board.
But now you said we needed two motions, or that,
The motion can simply authorize the chair and the
Okay.
auditor to sign the resolution and the grant agreement on behalf of the
You
county.
already have that motion.
okay,
Roger made that motion already,
And I believe you seconded it.
and Dwayne
Okay.
seconded. so-
okay, so we need a vote.
Yep.
Okay, I'll call the question now. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
Thank you.
What I meant, you said you needed a motion of sign plus another motion. That was,
You could do it in one motion. They're just-
you can, okay. that's-
And there'll be an amendment in 2 weeks or something like that.
Okay,
So there'll be amendment to the federal process at the next meeting.
okay.
Yeah,
And can I sign these later?
later, that's fine.
Or you're giving to Lauren maybe too, or? Okay, thank you. And now, next, an update from Administrator Kleindahl on American Rescue Plan.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, it's good to be here today. American Rescue Plan information is starting to come through. I've been trying to make sure I provide information as it does come through. We're starting to get some details, but we still don't have the meat of the process of what we're going to do. We do know that Kansas County is going to receive $8,390,899. So we submitted for those dollars last week. I was hoping to come today and announce to you and let you know that we got the first half, but we have not received it yet. They said about 4 business days, and so it should have been here either yesterday or today, and it wasn't here yet as of this morning. But so our first half that we get, so just to remind you, of that 8.3 million, we get the first half right now. So we get $4,195,449. That's what we get in 21. 12 months after we receive those dollars, then we're eligible to receive the second half. They spread it out in 2 payments. So that will kind of give you a guideline of where you want to go. As I stated, there's webinars constantly coming up about the using. The question came to me last week, how do you know which webinar is worthwhile to listen to and which one's not? I don't know. Because sometimes you sit up, you're listening to them and you think, my goodness, this wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And then there's other ones that think, wow, I can't write fast enough.
Yeah.
So I want to apologize now if I'm starting to bombard you with information, but I'd rather have it now instead of waiting 2 weeks and all of a sudden you're getting a big stack. I mean, if you look at the entire stack of the Treasury Department bill, here's what it is. If you've read Beetle Bailey this morning, Half-Track walked into the colonel's office and they handed him a 1-page thing, and the colonel said, geez, I like that summary, nice short summary, and he said, that's the cover letter. Well, this is, you know. So anyway, but we do have some guidelines, and I think what I would like to do is set up a work session. I think if we can set up a working session to help everybody get on the same page, if we could sit down and set the parameters as a board and kind of say, okay, here's the parameters we want to work with. We know, for example, Kennewick County, broadband is going to be a priority for us. What amount and how do you provide those dollars out is going to be another question. I mean, people are going to be coming left and right towards you wanting these dollars. How do you give one township this and another township that? How do you give a township in the northern part of the county this and in the southern part of the townships this? And especially with LTD and in the southern part of the county, there's going to be pockets. And so how do we address that? And so what I think we need to do to come up with a game plan is that we need to sit down and say, okay, here's the parameters. I think we set the parameters, and then you can get a committee together and then work out the details and the nitty-gritty stuff. But I would like to do that sooner than later. And I know it's hard to add things on a board day. You have a board day, and then by the time you get done with the board, you're pretty tired mentally. And so what I was wondering is that, like, next week, our next board meeting is June 1st. If we could have maybe June 2nd in the afternoon of the 8th, 9th, or 10th. And, you know, again, just
8th, 9th, or 10th.
yeah, in the afternoon, I was thinking. But I'll work around your guys' schedule too, but I thought I'd throw some dates out there.
I'm open on the 8th and the 10th unless you go past 5 o'clock. Then I have a very important meeting over there.
You said the 2nd as well?
Yeah.
That'd be sooner. That'd be a week sooner almost.
So because our next board meeting, at the second board meeting in June, it'd be nice if we had some parameters to kind of work with. We probably won't have all the details by then, but if we had some working idea of where the dollars go, even a percentage. I think you know, if we can start out and say, of these dollars, if we took 75% or 60% and we gave it to broadband, and then it gives you as a board an opportunity to say, okay, here's the criteria that they say we can use the dollars for. What else would we want to do with it? What are some real needs that we should be looking at? Remember, most of these dollars that we're spending is not as strict as this CARES funding is, but it still has to be COVID related. So when we do the audit, we're gonna be doing we have to do, reports. Our first report is due in August. And then we'll be doing quarterly reports after that. And so we have to have our stuff in a row, so when we have to send our reports in, we meet the criteria. So our first report is due in August, then we'll have another report, must be submitted by October 31st, and so on. And so our first report will probably just say we got the money, we're working on a plan, you know. But as we go through, we'll have quarterly reports, and we have to make sure we're meeting the criteria. If you don't, you have to pay that money back. And if we give the money out to someone else and you make a mistake, that's a big burden to our local citizens.
Okay.
Well, the broadband, for example, very important. I've been saying that for years, but we are now applying for a grant, which won't happen until next year. So how do we pre-fund that then, or just say we put this money in the back to use next year, or how do you?
Right, and those are some of the questions, but because of, if you're gonna use it as a match for border to border, that's what you'll do. You'll set that money aside and saying, these are the dollars we're gonna use for matching. We should be notified fairly soon of what, if, you know, once we apply, whether the dollars are gonna go. So one of the things that's interesting, that just came out of the last report, so as I stated at our last meeting, the funds have to be incurred by December 31st, 2024. They don't have to be spent until December 31st of 2026. One of the things we talked about is there a way that we can use some of those funds for broadband and you fund them up front, as Commissioner Nissen just said. We might have a border-to-border grant, you apply, and you apply for it in 24, but it may not be spent until 26. The good news is they're gonna allow that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilor
And
Andek.
again, these are questions we probably could, figure out in that work session, but.
Yes,
So the ARP money might be a bit available, that far in advance, but we don't know about the border-to-border dollars. That may have more strings tied to it. So there's a lot to sort through here.
There is.
And I agree wholeheartedly that we should set up a work session for this.
okay, thank you. And why don't we just go back to that then? You mentioned the 2nd of June. Does that work for everybody?
No.
No, okay.
Hog Creek has got at least one meeting.
What are the hours, what time of the day were you talking?
I was thinking the afternoon,
Could we,
but I would think
Excuse me.
we should schedule 3 hours, but it probably, whatever you deem, but probably 2 hours is gonna be good, because we're not gonna have a lot of details. And we don't wanna keep talking about the same thing and not accomplishing.
Sure.
We want it to be
okay, so the next date you would have was the 8th?
8th, 9th
The
and 10th
8th
in the
doesn't
afternoon.
work for me.
Huh?
The 8th doesn't work.
8th does not, let's cross that
Okay.
off.
Okay, how about the 9th?
Not for me.
Okay,
9th does not work.
Morning or afternoon?
okay.
How do I get so many
Afternoon.
days off?
And how about the 10th?
10th is open
10th
for
will
me.
work.
10th works.
Yeah.
10th works.
10th, going
If I got
once,
my
going
schedule.
twice?
It's not my preference. I would have preferred the 2nd, but
But before we settle on that, I'd prefer the forenoon, but
Okay.
does it work?
I think it works on mine.
if
Check
I'm
this.
open
Let me
all
check.
day. I don't want to drive, school bus driving is over with. Everything is clear.
Okay.
if we did before noon, I could do virtually any of those days.
Okay. Now, the 2nd in the morning,
We could do morning.
would you be free? Or is that too much? of a
11
day?
o'clock Hog Creek meeting.
Oh, that's
so
right,
that
okay.
would be
It
a
just starts it
problem.
early. Okay, so we're back to the 10th, in the morning of the 10th?
We could do that. I
Yeah,
think.
otherwise if we could start at 7 in the morning on the 2nd.
Well, I guess, yeah.
Good.
Unless we wanted
Well,
to gain those few days, I'd just recommend we go June 10th at
9
9
o'clock.
o'clock in the morning.
Well, and the other option would be on the board day of the afternoon. We were thinking we were trying to avoid that if we could, but.
It looks like the 10th, sounds like a 10th works for most, it's not your preference, but does it work?
Yeah.
I think so.
A separate day would be nicer. I guess be a long day on a
Then
board
we
day.
only focus on that
Yep.
topic.
Okay, so we're on the 10th and we're on the morning.
8:30 to,
N-
is 8:30 to
How about 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock?
It don't matter, I mean, I
8:30
don't,
or 9 would work.
I could do it at
8:30 or
6:30 in
9.
the morning on the 10th. There's no driving school bus anymore.
Well, I can tell you, I'm not quite ready to roll at 6:30. I stopped milking cows a long time ago.
It would be, 8:30 would be helpful for me.
8:30, okay.
Let's do 8:30.
8:30?
On the 10th, all right.
Scheduled for 3 hours. We might be done, most likely we're gonna be done
Sure.
before, or we can go 2 hours too, because the reality is, we're not gonna have a lot of nuts and bolts to it.
Yeah.
So
So
we'll be in
the,
this room then?
Yeah.
Okay.
so the homework will be to think of a percentage when you come. And then we can work it out.
Oh,
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Larry, quick question for you. The funding that's available to us is able to be used in a number of different ways. There's other funding that was in the entire package that covers some other areas as well. Can you just kind of give us a brief idea of what might be in that? I believe housing,
There's housing, public health,
childcare.
childcare,
Schools, maybe?
school, education, and you can use it for water,
Infrastructure.
sewer, loss of revenue due to COVID. So if you like lost gas tax, so we had decreasing funding for roads. If you had lead-based, old homes with lead base and stuff, those things can be addressed. You can use it for removing lead from water systems and stuff.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Indek.
Larry, do you know yet, in the House, I know there's some details to be worked out yet, but in the final version of the budget reconciliation, was there dollars in there again for business relief or some sort of COVID relief from the state?
There is some in there, I don't know the details. There was some also discussion in one of the House files of a business relief bill, and I think it was House File 991, but I don't know where that is at.
And that'll be tighter, if it did go through, that'll be tighter parameters probably on those. I did see this morning from Connie Schmall that broadband did get included for funding at $35 million a year for the next 2
Yep.
years, so.
Great.
Yep, 70 million for the next biennium.
Mr. Gardner, did I answer your questions about?
Yeah, you answered one of them.
Okay.
But then there are other areas within that larger American Rescue Plan, other areas that are receiving funding as well, not directly coming to counties.
Correct. Each state will receive fundings, non-entities, not small cities receive funding, townships. They also, and then each one has different categories they can use. All education systems receive funding.
So we're probably going to have at least a little bit of working knowledge of some of that so that we can, either piggyback on some of that or avoid duplication of funding, correct?
Correct. Like, for example, you can use it for some capital equipment or capital projects if it's related to COVID, qualify.
Okay.
Some assistance in tax policy can use it for cyber security systems you can use it for. There's a lot, again, there is a lot of criteria, but we won't have those details. We don't have control over those funds. The federal and the state governments will have those. The dollars we do have control over would be the dollars that we receive. We also can work with our local entities, our townships, our small cities and stuff to pool money together.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Kleindall?
No, that's time. Any other questions that I can answer for, on ARP dollars or anything you need me to get to you before our next meeting that you'd like to know about? Is there anything?
Well, thank you. This is something we've been kind of waiting to get on top of as fast as possible, and I think we're doing that. And thank you for your leadership in that, Mr.
Yeah.
Kleindl.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Next, I'd like to call on Mr. Ingleby, and I believe you have a resolution for us. Resolution 2021-25 about noxious weeds.
That's correct. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Thank you for your time. I have before you Resolution 2021-25, which is, for this calendar year, a noxious weed appeals committee resolution to establish a committee of officials that would be called together in the event that a local weed inspector, be it a township official or a city official, issues a noxious weed violation form to a property owner, and that property owner decides to appeal that, that violation notice. This committee would be brought together. They would make the final decision on whether that is a noxious weed violation. The state of Minnesota Department of Agriculture recommends that each county, each year, form or formally pass a resolution that forms this committee. Without this committee in place, the noxious weed law enforcement would end at the township. It would be very, very difficult to make a final decision or enforce that law. The good news is this committee has not met in well over 15 years.
Okay.
And it's closer to 25 according to my predecessor. So it's a formality, but it needs to be in place, and I'm happy to say that we generally don't have a problem. So,
Mr. Chair, I will move that we adopt Resolution 2021-25, and then I have a comment.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Nissen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second by Commissioner Emdek. Okay, any questions or comments?
Yeah, my comment, and I, just so the public understands, because every year I get a couple of calls, and their first line of complaint is the township, correct?
yes, that is correct.
So, when they have somebody along the road's got a whole bunch of whatever weed it is that they don't like, the first thing they ought to do is contact their county, or their township officer, and they are to deal with it, whether if they don't, or if they do and they don't agree, then that's what this committee is for, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Ingleby,
As a township,
Mr.
as a
Anderson.
former township supervisor, this was one of the things we dreaded the most was
Oh.
dealing with noxious weeds because you had to get after people to take care of them, or you had to take care of them at their expense, and you could have some.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner
meetings,
Emdek.
I guess.
I think the exception to that township is when it's in a county right away, right?
Correct, and I field those phone calls, and then I pass it on to maintenance department, so.
Okay,
And then in municipalities, the responsibility would be to the Public Works Department there in that municipality, so.
Commissioner Anderson, I see your concerns about being in a township and dealing with it, but looking at the list of who's on the committee, I don't think you got away from anything.
I'm
Lauren,
used to it, so it's.
yeah, Lauren, would you just share the three names on the first part of the committee?
Yes, and this form has been standard boilerplate form. I change the dates and the names as we get new commissioners. So there was really no other reason to insert those names, but Commissioner Anderson, Mr. Gene Gatewood, who is a landowner, and Mr. Howard Pierce, who is also a landowner, are the three primary members on that committee. And then the list of alternates there, Commissioner Berg, Commissioner Gardner, Commissioner Imdek, Commissioner Nissen. And then we have two other alternates or landowners, Mr. Dwayne Underthan and Mr. Steve Boonstra. So it's standard boilerplate. We change the dates.
Okay,
Hope we never have to meet.
okay. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
We're zipping right there.
perfect timing, Mr. Van Dyken, would you please come up? And I'm glad you got here early. We're running ahead, which is really good today because we've got a lot on our plate. So, good morning and welcome.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Eric Van Dyken, County Zoning Administrator, here with 5 different action item requests from the May 10th meeting of the Planning Commission. We had a nice meeting with a lot of interaction, so I think it felt like good public policy. The first proposal is for a solar garden. This is a 1 megawatt solar garden just outside of the city limits of Princeburg, to the west of Princeburg, near Chitumba Creek. It is in Holland Township on land owned by Stan and Sandy Woodman, kind of obscured from the highway by being placed behind a grove. The Planning Commission did unanimously recommend approval with 3 conditions and assigning findings as you see in your minutes.
And any questions or comments from anybody? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the conditions and findings.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Commissioner Anderson and a
I'll
second
second.
by Commissioner Gardner. Again, any questions or comments? Other than, looks like you had a very busy night, 12 pages of dealing with all these different ones. Very good. I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Okay, number 2.
The second request is a request from Kyle Weber. This property is located just south of Hillcrest on the east side of the road across from the county landfill. And Kyle proposes to locate a shop there and office for his construction business, as well as some on-site sales of things like skid steer attachments and that kind of thing in coordination with his son. So the Planning Commission, again, unanimously recommended approval with 7 attached conditions and findings as you see.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Deck.
I would move on the Kyle Weber application with the findings and conditions.
Okay, I got
I will
a motion
second
and a
that.
second by Commissioner Nissen. Any further questions or comments?
Just a quick one. You said it's right south of Hillcrest. Has Prentice been storing some vehicles there in the past? I'm trying.
I don't recall seeing any vehicles located on this property myself, but I may have missed it.
So it's between Hillcrest and those turkey barns then?
That is correct.
And you had 8 findings as well as part of that motion. And at this point, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
Third request is a request from William D. Skapaniak Incorporated. This is a request for a gravel pit. It's located in Genesee Township. It would be just north of Lake Elizabeth a little ways, kind of in a pretty heavily mined area. Gravel pits to the south and to the east, and quite a bit in that area. This property does not have a huge amount of great material in it, but they're focusing on a smallish area of around 10 acres, I think, a little bit more. They do propose something just a little bit unique in this site, as they are working with the landowner to the south to mine through the property line. Normally, we have a property line setback, but when we have a situation where we can agree to mine through and use that good material rather than just having a big hump for no reason, then we would look to accomplish that. So we do have that specifically noted in condition number 4 as proposed. And with that, the Planning Commission did unanimously recommend approval with conditions 1 through 9 and the findings as you see.
Okay. Now I'll ask for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Commissioner Anderson to approve.
Facts and findings?
Yep, with the facts.
Facts and findings. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Commissioner Gardner. Any further questions or comments?
1.
Yes.
Thank you,
Proceed.
Mr. Chair. Eric, just looking again at the conditions, number 2, that the permit would actually be good for 10 years, although you're looking at, they have a 3-year lease on the property. I'm wondering why that particular length of extension of the permit instead of something shorter like 5 years.
That's a reflection of what our ordinance has for a mine of this size, sets that as a 10-year limit. They don't necessarily believe that they will exhaust it within that time period, and of course, they would always have the opportunity to release, and then it would stay with the land, either them or another person would release, and we wouldn't want them to have to come through that process again and have it look the same, so.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'll call for the vote in reference to approving the findings and conditions. And all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
And for the fourth request is a request of Howard Buffington. This one's a little bit different in that it's not a new conditional use permit, it's an amendation of his current conditional use permit that was just granted in 2020. You may recall this is right up near Long Lake. Currently is being actively mined. He started on it already last fall. And Mr. Buffington requests to add 9 acres to his existing permit, leaving all the other conditions the same as the board had previously approved. And there was a decent amount of discussion on this one. This vote was not unanimous. There was one nay. And it is recommended for approval with conditions 1 through 13 and the findings as you see.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll move on.
A motion by Commissioner Emdek,
With commission?
With conditions.
conditions and findings, and a second by the chair for conditions and findings. I did have one question. The one no vote, do you recall what was their concern?
Well, there was some neighborhood concern around vibrations, and then there was some concern about potentially blowing sand, although that was kind of a secondhand concern. That concern wasn't stated firsthand experience from anybody. And so there was some general, and clearly it is an area that has more homes than what we would see near most mines. We are quite a ways past the required setback from any of the residences. I mean, most of them are 400 to 600, even a quarter mile away in that band along 212th Avenue there. But of course, anytime you get closer to people, it just, sometimes the nervousness goes up about potential impacts. And so that's what some of the discussion centered around.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Just a comment.
Commissioner,
No, they won't be crushing or washing there. It's in the condition, so it's essentially a Caterpillar and loader.
That is correct. No crushing is allowed or washing or other, so it basically just gets screened and then the rock gets moved across the highway to a different gravel pit where it's processed further.
Okay.
And as the last time that it came before us, there was a concern about the water quality in Long Lake as well. Was that brought up at this time with that additional 9 acres? And how was it resolved the last time?
Well, there were general concerns brought up, but no real tie to the mining operation. So someone this time during the testimony said they think there's been more erosion in the lake. I'm not sure what kind of erosion they're referring to, but the mine itself is self-contained and about 1,500 feet away from the lake. So there's really there's nothing from the mining operation getting to the lake, and there's no real other way that I'm aware of that it could be impacting. So I would say there was kind of generalized concerns without a lot of specificity that could be responded to any more than that.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner Emdek,
Commissioner Nissen may be talking about the groundwater. There's no mining
the
allowed.
landfill.
Yeah, I think, there's a condition, no excavation shall occur below the water table.
Yeah.
And so that's covered.
And that condition stays, yeah. So that was discussed a little bit around. Mr. Buffington in his application did indicate a desire to have a pond there. He has dreams of someday developing further there. And the township and several citizens from the area wanted to make sure that it was clear that he still was not being allowed to mine below the water table. And so that condition does remain in effect in this proposal.
Commissioner Gardner, you had a question? No. No, okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll call for the vote then on Buffington's conditions and findings. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
And the last proposal here is from Jorge Zelaya. He's a prospective buyer of land owned by Peter Poss, just south of Wilmer, kind of south of that Grass Lake area on the southwest corner of that, just east of an existing West Central Sanitation site that's commercially zoned. There's kind of one last little spot in there that's just an alfalfa field right now. He proposes to rezone it to commercial industrial. It does have a lot of things that we would typically consider to be conducive to a commercial area. It's not encumbered by nearby residential. It's near trunk highways. It is in the city of Wilmer's urban growth boundary and such. So the Planning Commission did unanimously recommend approval on this based on the findings as you see.
Okay. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will move passage of the zoning amendment with the findings.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Gardner, a second by
I'll second it.
Commissioner Anderson. And there's no conditions, there's just findings. Any other questions or comments?
Just a quick, is this the
Commissioner
same Zelaya that has the junk car dealership north of town?
I believe that's Raphael Zelaya.
Okay.
Different gentleman.
Question. No more comments? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you very much. You had quite a few present. Appreciate it. And next, I want to call on Mr. Hovland. And you have something on Compass software.
Get back to my.
I'll introduce it and I'll turn it
Okay.
over to Scott.
And Mr. Kleindall.
Give you a little background.
Okay.
If you recall, I was before you, a couple months ago, I talked about some software that we're looking at. With Kathy Peterson's retirement, was an opportunity to just look at how we take our board minutes and how we set our board agendas. And so I instructed our IT director, Jay Kruna and Scott Hovland, to do some research about some different software, agenda software systems that are out there and board packet systems. And so they did their homework. They sent 3 or 4 of them back to me to look at. I narrowed it down to 2 based on what I know from some other counties and some of the preferences that I was looking at. We formed a committee of approximately 9 people that were sat on that committee. And so since February, we've been going back and forth, looking at different systems. We had a couple demonstrations from the companies to show us what the systems look like. And then we asked a couple counties that use the 2 different systems to show us virtually how the systems work, what are the pros and cons to it. And after discussing, we kind of made a recommendation. This is the one we want to go with. And so today, I'm before you today to show you the system, the iCompass system. Scott's going to give you the little backgrounds, and I can come back up and answer some questions after you see it.
Okay. Morning, Scott.
Morning. Good morning. So I'm just going to jump through it. Larry covered some of the things that we've got in here, which is great. So like Larry said, we were looking at some board meeting management systems. And of these that we've looked at, it not only applies to this board, but can be used throughout the county. So why are we doing it, I guess, is the main thing, right? Right now, this process is very labor intensive for our administrator's office. And our frequent flyers of coming to the board, we'll have logins to these systems, and then we'll request to be on the agendas. And so that part of the process will be done. Our administrator's office will approve, or depending on the board, will approve what goes on. In addition to that, once that's compiled, it makes us very easy to get out to the public so they can see what's going on. Like Larry said, we compared some different products, and they were very similar, maybe had different looks to them, but what they did was very similar. We went with this one based on recommendations from a couple of counties and a couple of features that we thought in a meeting was very advantageous for all of you. So you weren't jumping between screens back and forth. It kind of ties it together. And that's a split screen that we'll see in a demo. And then, like I said, giving people access to these agendas and documents to go with it. Larry had mentioned that we brought a group of people together. So we had our administrator's office, human services, public health, environmental services, and our IT department sitting at the table, kind of weighing out some of the pros and cons. These, I won't go into detail of all these different things, but there is a lot that goes into these systems, so you can track what actions are being taken. Very easy to go back to this agenda manager, minutes manager. So the minutes, have some format to them, and they're kind of pre-populated, and going through that, as well as once things are done, and I want to go as a consumer of the product. As a citizen, I want to know, what that gravel pit, decision was in that document center. I can find that much easier than we can today. Okay.
May I?
Commissioner
ask-
Undep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just writing a question about that access. So that access is to the public, so they can go. So we aren't spending our time and resources if they do a data request. We just point them in the right direction,
Right.
and they go looking for it on their own.
Correct. Yep. So I'm just going to play a quick video from the company so you can kind of see it. And
is an easy-to-use, web-based software solution that automates manual tasks throughout the meeting cycle, helping clerks to gather and organize meeting-related documents, create an agenda packet designed for online viewing, and send notifications to the public and staff when agendas are completed, resulting in a dramatic reduction in the time it takes for a clerk to build agenda packets and manage meetings. Building an agenda. With iCompass, there's no need to deal with formatting headaches using traditional word processors. You can create an agenda and publish it online in minutes with an editor built specifically for local government clerks. iCompass's drag and drop editor takes care of the formatting for you. Simply move items that are ready for your next meeting into the meeting template and delete the elements that aren't being discussed in that meeting. The system creates clickable attachments and updates the formatting automatically on your agenda packet. Publishing an agenda. When an agenda is ready to publish, iCompass Meeting Management Solution allows you to send it to elected officials, the public, and other key stakeholders with a single click. A record is created for the public via the Civic Web Portal. It's an extension to your website where agendas, minutes, and other records are automatically posted. Digital and printable versions of the agenda packet are both available on the Civic Web Portal. When a last-minute attachment needs to be added, the clerk simply adds the item and clicks Publish. The agenda packet is updated automatically. Transparency and public records. Is there a push in your organization to become more transparent? Take advantage of the Civic Web Portal to make it easy for the public to find information without having to contact a clerk. A powerful search engine makes it easy for anyone to find documents on a specific topic. Engage with your community by creating online forums where they can submit requests. Members of the public can also subscribe to a specific meeting and receive automatic notifications when an agenda has been published or the clerk updates an agenda packet. Paperless agenda annotation. With the iCompass Agenda Notes application for the iPad, clerks will save hours by eliminating the printing, scanning, and copying done before a meeting. Elected officials can download and access their agenda packet right from the iPad. With a view to manage the agenda and dig deeper into attachments, even the least tech-savvy of elected officials can pick it up and start reviewing their agenda right away. Minutes and meeting follow-up. Once the meeting is over, you can create your minutes with iCompass Drag and Drop Editor. The minutes are pre-populated and formatted based on your agenda packet. The clerk can assign follow-up tasks and send notification emails to staff right from the Minutes module. Managing records. With iCompass, your records are stored and managed online. When you need to respond to a request for information, your files are completely searchable in our File Pro module. In a couple of seconds, you have access to documents from your entire organization, and you can manage retention schedules that are customized for your local government automatically. Select the appropriate classification, and the system will manage documents as instructed. To learn how easy it is to join our community of clerks, saving up to 50% in agenda preparation time, contact iCompass today.
Mr. Hovland, Scott, okay to ask some questions now as we going along?
We'll take our shot, yeah.
Okay. It looks very interesting and it's kind of exciting in many aspects. So this will do away with Dropbox then?
Right.
And also, would we then have more access to the information not only on the county iPad? Can we use the portal like we do now? But now we can't, I can't use my iPad at home, the big one, for example,
Right.
because I can't get into the Dropbox. But I would be able to have a passcode or something to get in.
Yep, so our authorized users will all have logons to it, which is different than our public view to it.
Okay.
But yeah,
That sounds.
it's not depending on a device. It's kind of a step up from our Dropbox. Our Dropbox is, you're jumping between documents, and that's where we like some of this stuff too, is as you're going down that agenda, as we're going down the left side of the agenda and you click on something, you're seeing the supporting document to go with it.
Okay. A couple other questions. We're talking about the split screen. That's going to be more valuable on the bigger screen we have. So we'd be using the same program through the whole thing, and the chair or the presenters could be using that information and moving it around as well.
Right.
Okay, that's great. And one last question before I let somebody else talk. Our website then, how is that going to be embedded in our website?
Right. So what we'll do, and what we'll pick on Yellow Medicine as they were one of our counties that we worked with, is our current documents will stay there, and then we'll have a link that will look very similar. It'll have the same look and feel as our current website,
Okay.
but they'll click on that, and so let's say that June 1st we go with a product like this. Everything after that date will be on that site.
Okay, good. All right. Commissioner Emdek? Yeah.
Is this a standalone platform, or or can it be tied to like Google Docs or Office or any of those other?
You can import those things to this. This is a self-contained, but definitely you can take a Google Doc and upload it into the agenda module.
So all the storage is within this platform?
Correct. Yep. And with this product has unlimited storage. We can, with some other enhancements that we're not going to go to initially, we can link our videos and things to it too, which we may look at in the future. So as you're time stamping your agenda and you want to go back to a previous meeting, you can click on that and see the video that goes with it. But I don't think we will start with that, but there's always more options, down the road.
So I have a follow-up question.
Yes, please proceed.
Should I feel bad about the fact that I've been deleting those iCompass emails that I get 3 times a week for the last 2 years?
I've got plenty of them.
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Scott, thank you. I want to see if I heard you correctly. Would we be taking any past items, documents, agendas, things like that, and migrating them over to this for?
No, I don't think we will. I think we will start from what's on their platform. Otherwise, we'd have a lot of work to get it to fit their system.
Okay.
We will keep ours as is, and in the future, we will also take an archive of what they have of ours and make sure that Mark has a copy for archival purposes.
Okay. And did I understand you to say that our access to this would be device agnostic? In other words, it could be PC, it could be.
Right.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yep. Yep.
Because
so
this is a
definitely when
little
you're
small.
looking into some of these things that are in your board packets, you may have a 24-inch screen that you want to look at. That is definitely better than a 14-inch or 10-inch iPad, things like that. So yes.
And does this have other modules that could be added? And if so, is there anything that might be of use later?
There are, and I don't have them right in front of me, I don't think. But like one of the things that I mentioned was linking the video in there. Do you remember some of the other ones, Larry?
Video management, and we have
A conflict of interest tracker. They've got a module here, I see. A board manager, so you can kind of, all these different groups that we're on and who's on what, when do they expire. That's an added module.
contract,
Yep.
contract and tracker. So if you have contracts and agreements, you type in a first name, Three Sisters, and you can see what kind of contract you have with it.
And that one's actually included with what we're gonna get. Yep.
So what, Commissioner Nissen, say I want to look up something that happened last December.
You
That
go
won't
back-
be on
You'd go
this.
back to our
Would it be on Dropbox or would it be on the?
No, it's on our website.
Website.
And it currently is.
Okay.
Yep.
So one of the things we looked at is the split screen. All the others are really equal, but the split screen, we're hearing from other counties that the commissioners love this split screen. Because if you don't have to flip back and forth, you can see it, you want to click on something, you can find it. So this can be used for planning and zoning meetings, the minutes. So somebody would send a agenda item to Gary or Eric, or whatever. They would approve it, or they could write them a note back, a confidential note saying, you need to follow up on this to get this information. And you can do private messages along with public messages. So you can use that as a communication tool. So say Commissioner Berg is going to do an agenda item as a department head. He can go in there and he would say, this is what I'm asking for. Here's what the potential cost is. And so as he putting it in the agenda item, he's almost start writing the minutes for you. So when it comes up to the board minutes, it says, Department Head Berg is requesting this, the monetary cost is this, and then you'll have a line on who made the motion, who seconded the motion, and then what the vote was.
So,
Commissioner Amdek.
so as that's happening, is that voice activated then, or how is that?
It isn't, right, it's manual. I imagine someday it would be, and you can do digital voting, so we could do it by digital voting, so when you vote, you would hit a button, and so you would.
But who
mark your
will
recording.
be recording?
We'll have a clerk.
There'll be a scribe.
Yep.
Mark-
Like we do today.
Mark and I are still working out those
Practicing
details.
your keyboarding.
So we're gonna change it. Right now, we have, two people coming from the auditor treasurer's office, and so it's a 2-hour meeting. And you take the travel time back and forth, it's another hour. So you got 2 people, you got 6 hours, twice a month. They're coming to me. And then to do the minutes, it's probably another hour and 20 minutes. So you add that time up, that's a lot of time. You take how much time it takes for Karen, my administrative assistant, to put the agenda together. It's the whole week process before board. Putting the board together, the packets, is very time consuming. We're hoping, and that's why we're doing our due diligence, is we're hoping this saves a lot more time and tracking. Again, the downside of this is a big learning curve for department heads to add stuff. And so it's for us and for the department heads, there's gonna be a learning curve. But this can be used for ditch authority meetings, other meetings that I haven't even thought of.
Right, and I think that's, to Larry's point, with that, having access to these different committees, you all have more than one meeting that you go to a week. And I think you would probably get to the point where you see if you like what you're seeing here, why aren't we doing it these other places?
Oh,
Right.
good point. Commissioner Nissen.
He covered that. The next slide after the demo was the pros and cons, and I
Well,
was
before.
staff members not being able to figure it out. He just stated that one.
And I'm not the most tech person, as Roger would point out to you.
Well, they covered that too. The most limited people might be on this dais.
Well, If I may go back to Mr. Kleindell's comment about Eric here talking about the planning and zoning. Well, while he was doing that, I'm just trying to go back to my email, and then you got Outlook, and then you look here, and then you go back, and then you have to go through all your Outlooks, because if you switch to another topic, this way it'd be all one place, one
If you
time.
take a look at the screens right now, this is that split screen that really sold us on things.
Okay.
Is right now the agenda is on your left-hand side. And when they clicked on that agenda report, that's what came up on the right. So it really helps the flow as you're looking through and you want to jump back or jump forward just to see what's coming. You have it right there without, like I said, jumping into your email or wherever it might be.
Yep. Okay. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. I'm really intrigued by this transparency portal, which also includes voting and attendance records. And I assume that could be made available for any of the committees that we serve on as well.
I think so.
I think there's a lot of value to that.
So, Mr.
Commissioner Anderson.
Chairman, I was just, for clarity on for minutes, will it help, Mark? I mean, do they still type everything in, or is it?
There are some
kinda
pieces that
transcribed
are
or something?
pre-formed.
It is
per se.
okay.
But it's not a transcription of what happened in the meeting.
Okay.
And I don't think that's what we want. I don't think anybody wants to go back to the board meeting and read a novel,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And we may talk for 15 minutes, but what makes the meeting,
Yeah.
is very limited.
But will it cut down their time? Because right now it's time consuming.
Correct.
Will it cut it in half, do you think? or-
We're hoping, because when you enter the stuff into your agenda, when the department head is typing the agenda or putting stuff into the agenda to be sent to me for approval, they'll have to put that information in there, and so that automatically crosses over into the minutes.
Okay.
So Mark and I are still trying to figure out, okay, with this transition, how are we gonna do the minutes? Who's gonna help take, who's gonna change, are we gonna change the clerk for the board? So we're looking at that process. And in order to do that, before we made the changes, I want to find out what technology we're gonna be available. Does it come back to the administrator's offices, and do I take that on? Or do we bring another person from a different department to help out with elections and everything else every other year? It gets really difficult. I don't know if Mark wants to address anything on that, but it's very time consuming, as Commissioner Anderson was saying. So I'm just trying to look at a way, is this going to make a difference? And dragging my feet a little bit, because we want to make sure you get it right, because this is not a free system. It's about $10,000 to do it. But it costs us almost that right now on the process we're doing.
Is that $10,000 one time, or is there updates you
There's
gotta
updates
buy?
each year, and there's
That's an annual fee.
an annual fee, and they'll have a cost of living, or cost expenses on adjustments, I think around 3%.
Along that same line, is there a time commitment when you go this route, or is it you buy it for a year at a time, or what's the?
Well, we're going to sign, if we go
I'm
through this,
jumping
we were
ahead of
looking
your
at a 3-year
presentation.
agreement, $10,000 a year, like Larry said, with a 3%, additional fee every year, which is pretty standard in the contracts we get. We want to do it right. I think, like Larry said, is once you put both feet in the water, you're not going to turn around, I think, as easily. So we want to do it right, and that's where we want to feel comfortable with where we're at. Could we? Sure. We could grab those documents at any point in time. There are documents, and we can go to another flavor. We can go back to where we were, but I don't know that would be moving forward, right?
Okay, Commissioner Emdek.
I serve on the chair, or not on the chair, I serve on the Business Partner Development Committee at the Association of Minnesota Counties. Out of curiosity, who was the competition that we took a look at? I mean, this sounds like a good partner for
Yes.
AMC.
Yeah, we looked at
Civic Plus,
Civic Plus and Granicus, and
and the prices for those were really similar. Of all the three, we didn't choose it because this is the least expensive. So it's one of the, I would encourage you, if you know any of the commissioners in Yellow Medicine, pick up the phone, give them a call, and ask, what do you think about this?
We were supposed to, I think the last time we had fall policy might have been 2 years ago. We were supposed to have a presentation by Granicus, and they never showed up. And so, they didn't impress us that time. Not that they're any good, they just didn't show up.
Any other questions at this point? I am understanding you want to move on this, and we would make a decision today.
If we can, otherwise if you want more time, you can wait till the next board meeting. We waited this long, it's, but
I think it's a great program. It sounds like it would really work out well and really take a lot of pressure off staff. And to me, when I'm looking at it, the biggest value of this is that we get things correct and we get the information out there correct, and we're not going to make a mistake of some kind. The cost savings, it always sounds good, but I'm not sure we're going to save $10,000 by doing it. But it's part of doing business, and it's, on one hand, I looked at this initially like, well, this is a software program, for everyday work, and the board, our role in this is pretty small, but how we'd use it and what we'd be inputting, but it looks very valuable from that end as well. So I see it very valuable from that point of view.
Could I ask,
Commissioner Anderson?
would it be okay to ask Mr. Thompson are you going to be the one dealing with it, or who is going to be?
Well, I think Karen's probably going to be spending more time. It starts with the agenda, and that's building the agenda, and that's what Larry's staff does now.
Is she happy with it, do you think, or?
yeah, she was on that committee.
She was, okay.
And Mayor LaPaca were, two of the major drivers, because they both take a lot of the sets agendas up for both committees.
All right, because I'd hate to make a motion on somebody that has to deal with it, and then they're going, you guys made me do this.
Commissioner,
That's going to happen somewhere else.
Commissioner Anderson, I think one important thing is on the agenda, you're actually going to see the motion typed out ahead of time. A lot of times you'll be, presenters sometimes come up and say, the ask for today is this.
Yep.
You will actually see the motion laid out in the agenda as part of the minutes. So you'll know exactly when you make a motion to approve, you'll know what the motion is ahead of time.
Okay.
So I think what Mark is saying is a good point, is oftentimes when somebody's presenting, you're not sure, you're listening to them, you're not sure what they're asking you.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're saying, I'm going to ask this, here's what the financial impact might be not be anything.
Okay.
And so that might give you some more tools to make decisions.
Yeah. I like how it is. It's just, is it going to actually be like this, and is it easy to set up for the people doing all this work? And so as long as you're happy with it,
It's change, and we all know how change goes sometimes, right? But I think when we look 6 months down the line, I think, I really hope that we see some definite benefits from it. There will be some pain up front, like there always is. And nothing, as Larry's talking about these motions and things, it'll be nice to have those in front of you, but they're not set in stone at that point, right? Because that can all be, may come up and alter that motion just a little bit, but at least you have an idea of what it's going to be.
yeah, okay.
Commissioner Gardner, you had a question? Or no?
I believe Commissioner Anderson was about to make a motion, otherwise.
You can do it if you want. That's fine. That doesn't matter to me. Otherwise, I can make that motion. I'll make the motion. That
Motion by Commissioner Anderson to approve the iCompass software system program, and a second by Commissioner Gardner.
I will second.
Okay, and
I
questions
just-
or comments, Commissioner Nissen?
Well, I was going to follow up on something he said
Yep.
about motions, because we had the identical situation this morning where you had to ask, well, is this two separate motions, or is this
Yes.
this? And it's happened, in fact, it happened twice this morning. And so that feature is a good idea. I'm not sure, we won't have time to follow up with friends we know over in Yellow Madison County if we vote on this today, but on the other hand, there's always the other hand, we have staff that has looked into this and they want to work with it, so I have no objection to voting today.
Well, I just want to add your comment too, and if Karen thinks we need it, I think we need it. Commissioner Gardner, do you have a comment yet?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just think that this is going to provide a lot more ability for the public to engage with the information that we have, and add a considerable amount of transparency to what it is that we're doing. I'm highly in favor of this.
Okay, be interesting to see. Question, comment? Otherwise, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving iCompass County Board Agenda Software Program, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously.
So just like in 2006, if you recall, prior to 2006, we never did record the meetings. And so our meetings became recorded. Now we're going live with streaming. All these are changes, but we can use technology. And I remember when Scott started showing me how our meetings now can be streamed on YouTube. And wow, that's it's kind of scary because if you screw up, everybody's watching you live screw up. It's one thing to watch it later on, but it's a good system, a good transparency. I think we found out during COVID, it gave the public an opportunity to see what was going on. If you can't get to a meeting, you can watch it later in the evening now. And so transparency is really improved.
Question, Mr. Hovland. When do you generally think this is going to start taking place at this point?
Today.
Yeah.
I think as soon as we can start rolling out soon. As far as when we're going to implement it in this room, I don't have a guess on that.
But-
Whether we're
but
looking
you
at a
could-
month or two.
Oh,
You know?
that's soon. Okay.
Yeah.
So are they going to use computer systems in?
No.
Well, thank you for.
And when's the seminar to teach us board members how to run this whole thing?
Yeah, we'll definitely have to make that as part of the process. Yeah, we won't just throw you to the wolves there.
Well, thank you, Mr. Hovland and Commissioner Klein, or Administrator Kleindall, and the committee for all their hard work on that. I really appreciate it, and this looks like something to move forward with. At this point, though, I'd like to take a break, a recess.
Okay.
And we'll reconvene about 25 after.
Sure.
At this point. So I hereby take a break. Be nice to have everything all in one page.
Logan,
I was looking for the
Are you ready?
resolution.
Yeah, but this wouldn't be in there.
Logan, just let me know when she's on the phone.
Oh, we're waiting.
Okay, you ready for me to transfer?
Just we'll call it to order first. Yeah, go ahead and transfer.
Okay, right?
3, 2, 1.
I hereby call the Candioi County Board of Commissioners meeting back in session from the recess. At this point, I would like to call on Administrator Kleindahl concerning a resolution 2021-27 about requesting a closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have online also our labor attorney, Ann Gearing. Are you there, Ann?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, I want to read Resolution 2021-27, a closed session attorney-client privilege discussion on potential litigation between Candioi County and a former Candioi County employee. Whereas Candioi County is currently involved in potential litigation between Candioi County and a former Candioi County employee. And whereas outside counsel is representing Candioi County in a potential litigation matter. Whereas pursuant to Minnesota statute, the county by resolution may close the meeting to discuss strategies to resolve potential litigation. A meeting is permitted to be closed by attorney-client privilege under Minnesota statute 13D.05 subdivision 3B. Whereas pursuant to Minnesota statute 13D.05 subdivision 1D, this matter is being closed as permitted by attorney-client privilege. Thus, it does not need to be recorded. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Candioi County Board of Commissioners hereby closes the county board meeting on May 18, 2021 in order to discuss with counsel the legal and settlement options of potential litigation dated at Wilmer, Minnesota, 18th of May, 2021. I would ask if you'd be willing to pass that.
Okay, Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move passage of Resolution 2021-27 to close the meeting.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
A second by Commissioner Emdek.
Oh, it's not recorded.
It is.
This part is still open meeting here. Okay, any questions or comments? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of voting to close for a closed session, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, pass unanimously. Right now, we will transition into our closed meeting, and anybody who doesn't belong here, please step out. And my hopes is this won't not be very long, and we'll try stay close to the agenda where the meeting will be open to the public again at 11:40 a.m.
Logan, please let me know when you have the technology shut off.
He's working on my iPad.
All right, we're offline.
We're offline. Commissioner Berg, I have Ann Gearing online. We had mediation, and I'll have Ann kind of walk through the process. Ann, it's yours.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Larry and I, and on a couple of occasions, we had 2 days of mediation, or 2 mornings of mediation.
I hereby declare the Candiota County Board of Commissioners is back in open session. And at this point in time, I would like to call on Administrator Kleindahl to discuss with us as well. I believe we have Ann Goring, our legal counsel, online with us as well to talk about the mediation settlement agreement. Please proceed.
Thank you. Commissioner Berg, on the line, I have our labor attorney, Ann Gearing, here to talk about a settlement agreement we have. Ann, go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Ann Gearing. I'm here today to present to you a proposed settlement agreement. The county and the attorneys for a former employee, Corey Hansen, entered into mediation through the Minnesota Department of Human Rights a couple of weeks ago. We had two mediation sessions. Following the second mediation session, the parties were able to reach a mediated settlement agreement, which is before you today. Mr. Hansen has signed the settlement agreement, and it is my recommendation and the recommendation of Administrator Kleindahl that the board approve the mediated settlement agreement. Part of that is that MCIT, the county's Minnesota County's Intergovernmental Trust, will be paying a portion of the settlement agreement, and the county would be paying the remainder of it. This would settle all matters regarding Mr. Hansen that are outstanding.
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move passage of the mediation settlement agreement.
A motion by Commissioner Gardner to approve passage. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
A second by Commissioner Emdek. Any further questions or comments from the board? Mr. Kleindahl, any further questions or comments? If not, I will call for the vote. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ann.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Ann Gearing. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Good night. Bye.
Right.
All right.
Mr. Chair, next on the agenda is the proposed timeline for the 2020 budget. From May 10th to May 21st, we have our CFO putting together the salary and benefit package that will enter in for each department. And then on May 26th, the budget packets will go to the selected department heads and quasi-government agencies. They have until June 25th to get that back to my department. From June 29th to July 16th, I will review with individual budgets with department heads and kind of tweak the budgets and go through line by line where we're at, get explanations where the budget process is in their department. And then in the week of July 26th, I will meet with the board chair and the vice chair to kind of go through the initial draft of the budget to kind of get an idea of where things are at with them. The week of August 9th, then we will sit down with selected department heads and we'll be in this room with as a board going through the budgets, and it gives you an opportunity to ask the department heads directly about their areas, what's taking place. Around September 7th or the 21st, we will adopt the initial budget. We have to have it adopted by the end of September, which means in September when you first adopt it, it can go down, but it can't go up. So that's your ceiling. And then we'll have a truth and taxation meeting in December. And then by December 31st, you must vote to certify the budget to the state of Minnesota. So that is the timeline. Is there any questions about the timeline? Any questions?
No questions, apparently.
Okay.
That's very good.
Thank you. I can do my administrative updates.
Would you please?
As you know, this week the governor announced that if you've been vaccinated, you do not need to wear a mask, and if you're not vaccinated, you're strongly encouraged to wear a mask. That notice I sent out to all of our employees, and there were some very happy employees and to hear that news. It's nice to see smiling faces walking down the hall when they're getting their exercises in and stuff. So that's a big process, as you notice. Go ahead.
Oh, is that going to change any of the timelines about opening up at all? The
Well,
county business, yeah, and like
Sure,
the front door and.
sure, that's a good question. Most of our county business is open. Right now, the only difference is they have to have an appointment or they're greeted from the front door. I think once the emergency orders are lifted for Department of Human Services, so once it's mandatory that they start seeing all clients face to face, then we'll have more traffic coming in and then we'll have the doors unlocked. We're reviewing that process right now. As of this Monday, our departments are able to have outside agencies come into our building to have meetings, group meetings. Prior to that, that was not allowed. And I would imagine once we can have the doors completely unlocked, we'll open up the meeting rooms again to do that. But right now, because we have to sanitize stuff yet and bringing people in, we're doing it slowly until everybody gets adjusted. Is that it?
Thank you. Good answer.
Yeah. And then once the state lifts their emergency order, I think a lot of the rules are in place for 60 days following that. As you know, I think Jenny Lippert provided you information. A lot of the vaccine clinics are now being done inside versus a drive-through, just because the numbers are down. And when the numbers are down, it is not efficient to have a drive-through meeting. It just takes so much setup and so many people to run that operation. It's just easier to do a walk-in vaccination clinic. So we're working on that. Also working on replacing our emergency manager. As you know, Kim Lindahl is going to be retiring, so that posting is out there. Hopefully have the first round of interviews sometime early in June, and get that process going. And as I stated earlier, Kathy Peterson, who's been our clerk for the board, today is her last day. And so Mark and I are trying to figure out how we are going to go about doing the clerking of the board and how we want to do that. Do we want to make some adjustments? What adjustments should we be looking at, and how would we do that? So that discussion is ongoing. Also putting together some job description to get help for our administrative assistant regarding the ARP dollars, American Rescue Plan. As I stated, I'd like to present a plan to you. When we go ahead and do that, I don't think I can handle those duties on top of what I'm doing right now. And so I would like to have a plan to present to you what that may look like in a number of hours. And I would talk about that at our next work session that we have. So it's been a very busy week. We've had a lot going on, but it's a good thing. So that's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you very much for your update. At this point then, I think it's time for no committee appointments from anybody I'm aware of. And we dealt with our calendar issues already. So let's just move to committee reports. And I think this month, or meeting rather, we'll start at that end of the table. Commissioner Gardner, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Interestingly, tomorrow we have an AMC Commissioner 101 meeting that will cover the budget process for counties in some detail, and so that's awfully timely for us. Candiac County Renville Community Health Board met, I guess it was last week, and the primary item that happened at that meeting was recognition of Jill Bruins, who is the public health director down in Renville County for, Roger, I believe she said 35 years? Something.
Might have been 34 years total in public health and 27 at Renville, but something like that. Long time.
Sure. And she had quite a few colorful stories about her time in public health, and I know that she will be missed professionally and personally by all those that she worked with. I do want to thank Commissioner Nissen for sitting in for me last week on the HRA board meeting since I was out of town. And finally, the Humane Society had recently had a social media fundraiser, and I believe they came in with about an additional $9,500. And so that was an interesting event. It was, I believe, all on Facebook, all on social media. So, and that's about it.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Gardner. Commissioner Nissen?
Yes, sir. Well, I had 8 or 9 meetings since the last board meeting, but quite often they are fairly routine, and I will say that's quite frequent. That is what my report's going to really be about today. Prime West Health met, and we talked about a whole bunch of updates to our various policies and mostly date change, things like that have to happen every year. And again, fairly routine, nothing there that we're still waiting for the when we can get the what's the name of it? When we get the Department of Health procurement dates, but it's scheduled for 2023. Vision 2040 housing, very routine Zoom meeting there. Candy County Historical Society met last Monday night, and we are back meeting live. We are looking at expanding our research room so that we can have a little more elbow room. It's not going to be a very big change in footprint, but it will certainly be more functional. We're looking into the costs at the moment, and hopefully it won't, with the price of lumber and everything, it might not be the absolute ideal time, but it's something that we need to do. We're also got a virtual 5Ks going on right now, so if any of you want to register at our website, it's a $30 fee, and you'll get a great looking t-shirt. I think it's got the Remember the Coffee Fest picture of that on the front, kind of a cool t-shirt. I don't know if it's worth $30, but it's for a good cause.
Yeah.
It's for a good cause. The HRA board, I sat in on that, and we met, I guess we met hybrid. We had some folks on Zoom, and we also met at the high rise in their meeting room there. And again, routine meeting. The issue regarding the police training did not come up at that board meeting, so I can't add anything to that. Woodland Center, again, a routine meeting. The Highway 23 annual meeting was held virtually, and our congressman spoke very briefly because she had to rush back to the floor to vote. Her top aide gave us an update on some of the things happening with transportation. Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center met last night. Maybe I'll let Roger talk something about that. It was
Go ahead.
Really, we have had some success and purchased some new property with the help of Pheasants Forever, and which will expand our footprint out there and create more room for folks to enjoy the environment. So it's also yesterday, the Glacial Ridge Scenic Byway Committee met, and we're still looking for folks who want to join in with us, and Parks and Trails is going to help us recruit, not enlarge our committee so much as to get helpers to do various projects along the trail. So that's all I have. I think I overdid my 5 minutes, but I always do.
But you had a lot of committees. You sure do. I'd like to go to Commissioner Anderson, please.
Yeah, I I think I only had one meeting. I missed a couple AMC meetings, I think, that we had virtually because of the nice weather. But I just wanted to say that Crystal Roloff, she reminded me this morning, or told me that they were given a grant for $500 for the probation officers to give out bus passes for people on probation so they can make it to their drug testing and different things for them. And that was from one of my committees that I was on, that we voted for money available, that $500 amount. And that was for the Drug Force Coalition, or DFC meetings, I believe. And then basically the only meeting I did have then was one over at the Law Enforcement Center, and it was the first in-person meeting I went to since being elected, and it was kind of nice to be able to meet people and talk to them in person. So otherwise, that was about it. They just went over different safety information. One thing they talked about was Ebola rap type thing they can go after to catch people. So it was just kind of interesting information for me. So that's it.
That's always, it was a fun committee.
Yeah.
Interesting, yes. Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Amdeck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, mostly routine meetings that I attend on a regular basis. And I can't remember if Commissioner Anderson was on that as well, but I usually try to attend the coffee with the AMC president on the first Wednesday of the month. And it was interesting, our last meeting, pretty much the entire meeting discussed broadband. And of course, about every county in the state is going to be looking at, how we use the ARP dollars and how we can enhance our broadband issues. And I can tell you the frustrations that we feel regarding where we can use the border-to-border grant are shared throughout the state. And I don't know that we've heard the end of that yet with LTD and what they're doing. I mean, it was kind of a crazy thing. And the only way I can figure out how to change that is legislatively, so that we can start to use the border-to-border grant money, even if somebody got an RDOF loan like LTD did. In fact, I think there was an article or an editorial in a paper that I shared, maybe with all of you, I don't remember anymore, regarding. Yeah, yep, there you go. Thank you. So anyway, that was last Wednesday, and then on Monday night we had planning and zoning, and that was that Howard Buffington gravel pit was a long conversation and a difficult one, I have to admit. But at the end of the meeting, we talked about solar, and one member of the commission, and maybe more than one, was really looking to the county board as, giving them direction on how we feel about solar. And I was not in favor of the board giving that direction, because we're elected officials and we could potentially change our board makeup every 2 years. We're planning and zoning are 7 people and not 5, so they have more heads in the game. And it really is their responsibility. It is the zoning's to come up with ultimately we decide whether we pass something, but there's more minds, and they're appointed, so they aren't motivated by politics to make a decision. But I think we're just going to hear more about, and like we've done in so many different cases, when we consider an ordinance, we look at other counties that have already done something, and sometimes it's better to be a follower rather than an early adopter because you can eliminate some mistakes doing that. So more to come. Attended the public health meeting as Commissioner Gardner did. Middle Fork, rather routine stuff with Middle Fork. Attended the AMC Futures meeting. That's kind of a grueling experience. It went for 2 days. It is kind of a think tank type of conversation, and that one had to do with incarceration. And that's about it for me.
Okay, thank you. And I'll go last. I didn't have too many meetings. I did have an EDC committee meeting, but nothing really much to report on there. There was also 18 County Mental Health Consortium meeting, and I also attended the Highway 23 annual meeting, even though I'm not on that committee. It was for the group, and had an invite to that, and it was very interesting, and how Representative supported our 4 lanes along the way. So it was very good news, and it was very positive. And that's pretty much ends it for today. I have a meeting this afternoon with you, intergovernmental meeting, and I've had several other meetings besides that. But at this point, I am going to adjourn the meeting for the Candido County Board of Commissioners.
We have